It's the Happy Families Podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
Okay, you've got neurodivergent kids. They don't want to go to school. School is hard. They feel like they're not competent. They feel like they get stuff wrong all the time. Socially, things are awkward. Life is hard. Life is really, really hard if you're neurodiverse. G'day, this is Dr. Justin Coulson. My guests today on the Happy Families podcast, two wonderful friends, two brilliant thinkers and authors of the brand new book, Out of the Box, a one-stop guide to navigating neurodivergence. Madonna King and Rebecca Sparrow, authors of multiple books. There's so many things that we could talk about. We've got too much to discuss about the book, though. So can I just leave the intro there and say congratulations on your new book?
Thanks, Justin.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you.
Got to know, when you wrote this book about raising neurodivergent kids, what stood out to you more than anything? I'll start with you, Madonna.
I think so many things. The thing that broke my heart, though, is that we have girls particularly going right through school from prep to year 12 without being diagnosed. Because in a world where it is so important to fit in, particularly in social media, they learn to mask or camouflage their ADHD or autism to the point where they mimic their friends. They learn when to laugh. They learn what to wear rather than being themselves. And we pat ourselves on the back and say, we're creating an equal world for our daughters. Well, we ain't. When they are graduating from school, and in that year after school is one of the biggest times when our neurodivergent girls are diagnosed because their world implodes without those structures at home and at school. There's many other things, but that was the one that made me cry.
I really felt that as I was reading it, Madonna. Let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum. Beck, rather than talking about girls who are now graduating school and discovering that they're autistic or ADHD, you're raising neurodivergent kids much younger. What was it about writing this book that you found just stood out to you and was up in neon lights for you?
Look, I think it's something that I've learnt myself, Justin, over the years with my own kids, and it certainly came through in the research, which is, and it's a frustration, that sometimes what kids need are the smallest adjustments. The smallest adjustments, Justin, in class, of movement breaks or instructions written up on the board or whatever it is. And actually those adjustments usually benefit everybody in the class.
Yeah, that's right. So it's not like it's only for the neurodivergent kids, right? I mean, the neurotypical kids are pretty happy to move their bodies and get their wiggles out as well.
Absolutely. And it frustrates me. And I want to really stress the point that there were amazing stories about fabulous teachers and from teachers about the little clever things that they were doing that they saw not only help the neurodivergent child in their class, but actually all their classmates. But it upsets me when we heard stories of parents who were so frustrated having to fight for the smallest thing for their kids, which would make a world of difference, and then have their child feeling more comfortable going to school. So that broke my heart. But at the same time, when I did hear the positive stories from teachers or from parents telling us about amazing teachers, that was amazing.
Yeah, I love that. One of the greatest challenges for parents who are raising neurodivergent kids is what school does. Here's my hypothesis, and I know that there are going to be some blank spaces and some bits that have been missed, but tell me how this sounds for you, and then we'll start to fill in some blanks for where I'm missing. The theory or the whole parenting paradigm that I build all of the work that I do on argues that we have three basic psychological needs. And when we're in an environment that supports those needs, we feel motivated, we feel well, life is good. Those needs are, we need to have great relationships, we need to feel like we're competent and capable, and we need to have a sense of choice in our lives. My sense is that for most children, neurotypical or neurodiverse, when they show up at school, relationships can be tricky. They often feel incompetent anyway, and they don't have a whole lot of control because the school requires a standardized, structured approach. But when you throw in neurodiversity, when you throw in ADHD, autism, anxiety, and any other dyspraxia, dyslexia, any other neurological or even psychological challenges here, all of a sudden relationships become even trickier. Kids feel increasingly incompetent, and teachers, as a result of children perhaps not behaving as easily as they might otherwise because of the challenges that they're having, teachers become more controlling. Now, I'm not throwing shade at teachers here. It makes sense. They've got 30 kids to look after. If we can find a way to support those three basic psychological needs, we're going to go 95% of the way to helping every child fit in. Madonna, what's your response?
I would say that we need to look at the teachers in the school system. Those needs, absolutely. But when teachers told us that their last professional development in this area was 25 years ago and it was 15 minutes, or someone had mentioned neurodivergence and they meant to look it up at some stage in the staff room. There are beautiful teachers who are funding their own master's programs to try and understand this. The emails we're getting from teachers to say, help us on this, we need to be able to address this. How can they feel competent? How can they have relations in class? How can they feel safe and secure and included at school when the person leading the class doesn't have the time, the resources, or necessarily the training to do that? And so I think, we can start with the kids, and that is really true and important, and a parental thing can help there. But we also really need to take teachers into our arms and say, all right, what can we do that will, Beck said it helps everyone. A rising tide lifts all boats. And, those things that teachers can be trained to do that didn't realise, So, for example, if I hear another story about a reward chart, we've got stories of neurodivergent kids soiling their pants because they knew they couldn't do the task and therefore they would be held responsible by everyone. So there are some really basic lists of do's and don'ts. And I think South Australia has a Minister for Autism. Why can't we actually, in our universities and our policies and in our parliaments, have people who understand that up to 40% of our classes are neurodivergent? Because that's what teachers say, up to 40%. And that's not even in specialist classes. All right, now I'm just going to climb down off that box and hand over to you, Beck.
No, I agree with everything that you said. And I think it's interesting, Madonna, and you did this visit, I didn't. But if we look at, you went to a school on the Gold Coast that had set up a campus for neurodivergent children.
Is that the one just next to Emmanuel College?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've done some work down there, and I love what they're doing. It's so important, and they get great results because these kids feel so good. They feel competent. They feel like they've got good relationships, and they have a sense of control over their lives.
But it goes to what Beck says. This doesn't cost money in the sense of just alerting them that there's a fire drill the next day, or letting them pick the noise of the fire drill, or allowing them to have breaks, or not moving every 40 minutes, have the teacher moving.
That's a big one. I think having the kids in the same classroom and the teachers, certainly in primary school and beginning of high school, the teachers move when they come to the kids.
So they're lost and they're confused and there's noise. And Justin, I was at that school when they were told they could be picked up early that Thursday, on Easter Thursday. There was uproar the only time I saw it, because they did not want to leave school early. Imagine if we could do that in our classes across the country. One is saying, but it's in my contract, I'm here till 3:00. The other's saying, no, I don't want to. Can I stay till 3? And, we talk about a lack of engagement. We talk about behaviour. We need to get out from under our rock and say, if we have another education review into the behaviour of our children, it's just another $5 million wasted when we know what the answer is. Let's just do it.
Beck, I want to come to you for a sec, because you're literally raising kids who are living with these struggles on top of the work that you've done with Madonna in terms of researching this book. And I know that you spoke to a couple of thousand Australians, including experts and parents and teachers and people who are living this on a day-to-day basis. What would you say to a parent who's saying, I just want my kids to feel good at school, and they don't? What would the first steps be to help them to make progress? If they're autistic, maybe they've got ADHD, they've got both, and maybe they've got a pretty challenging profile here. What are those first steps to just smooth the way and make things feel better?
Question, Justin. So I think that what I would be saying is the first thing is hopefully not to see the school as the enemy. When parents can work in partnership with teachers and with schools, it is a much better experience for everybody. And this isn't just for neurodivergent children. This is for our children, all of our kids, right?
Across the board.
When we work with the school in a partnership. And I think part of it, and what we've done in the book is we said, tell us what teachers or schools are doing wrong. Equally, we said to teachers, what do you want parents to know? What are they doing that is hindering their own child's progress? So having respect for the teacher in your communication with them. Of course, we've got tips in the book about advocating for your child. So that is the first thing I would be saying, is working with the school, having that good relationship. But look, I'm going to be someone who says, if it is not working for your child and the school's trying and you're trying, this is why we're seeing a rise in homeschooling, Justin. Look, I'm in this situation, right? And so far, my kids' school has been amazing. I've got one of my kids starting high school next year. I do not know how it's going to go. And the fact is, where am I supposed to send my child? Where? He's very bright, but do you think he can sit down and write an essay? He cannot. He cannot sit down and do a timed essay, Justin. Where am I meant to send him? And I am one of thousands of parents are going, sometimes I think and I'm going to be very general here, but with some neurodivergent children who are very bright, the schools are very happy to take them on when they think they're going to improve their NAPLAN and their ATAR, right? Well, if you want that, you better also step up with the accommodations, okay? Because these kids think and work differently. And we have schools that are still in some ways in the dark ages. Other aspects of society are moving forward with how we accommodate and work with and change things for neurodivergent people, except schools. There are schools who are dragging their feet. And so I would just say, if you have tried everything, if you've been working with the school and your child is miserable, it is not worth it. Whether that's bullying or your child is just wilting before your eyes in the school environment, then maybe. And look, I say that, I know it is a luxury to say to somebody to homeschool, because not every parent is in that situation. But I mean, I feel like there's a lot of parents out there who feel like I don't know what to do.
Yeah, two things on that. I want to be sensitive, and at the same time, I want to be truthful. We've got kids who really struggled at school, and we also have neurodiversity in our family. And as you've spoken, there are two things that have come up for me. Number one, the willingness to work with the school is crucial. I can't emphasize what you've said there as the first step. That's the foundation. When I created a big ruckus a few years ago by talking about how kids shouldn't be doing homework in primary school because there's no research to support that, a lot of people got pretty upset about it. But in the letter that we wrote to the teachers around this, well, going back 15 years now, but in the letter that I wrote to the teachers, the wording that I used was something along the lines of, I know how much you love my kids and how much you care about their educational futures. I know that you really want to be there for them. So we're on the same team here. Mm. And that's a really nice way to bring in, we're dealing with a challenge here and we'd like to see if we can problem solve it together. I just wanted to put some flesh on the bones of your suggestion. Mm. The second thing that you highlighted around homeschool, we're homeschooling two of our kids. And it's precisely because of the reasons that you've mentioned. Unfortunately, as much as we have tried to work with schools, it hasn't been working. And there are stories from here in Queensland where all three of us are based, but also from Victoria. I haven't seen any from other places, although I believe that they do exist, where there are some rules where there is, I can't remember what the exact term is. So if I get the term wrong, please forgive me. But if children are being particularly challenging, and this usually only applies to neurodiverse kids, that teachers are allowed to use something that I think is called, is it appropriate restraint or something like that? And so I've been reading stories in the press. And in fact, it happened at a school here on the Sunshine Coast just recently, where a kid is put into a box or a kid is put into a cage or a kid is put into an enclosed space and told you're not coming out until you've regulated your emotions and you're back down level so we can talk about this. And it's these kinds of things. It's not happening a lot. I just want to emphasize that. And you've said wonderful things about so many great teachers who are, as you said, Madonna, going out of their way, spending their own money, doing everything that they can to support kids, develop themselves and so on. But at the same time, as you've said, Beck, there are some really big challenges and homeschool numbers are skyrocketing as a result. And the bullying and the neurodiversity are two of the biggest reasons for that. I had a chat with Brett Campbell from UCA on the podcast just recently and he said that.
Can I just say the tone is set from the top? It's not just the teachers. Our schools are marketing themselves as being inclusive. So it's okay to use the banner. You've got to put it into practice. And one thing that stood out in our research was those teachers who were neurodivergent or those teachers who had neurodivergent kids were just terrific with the whole class. So, why aren't we actually employing maybe more neurodivergent teachers or making, providing that as a skill base that can actually connect with our students too? I mean, there's so many things we could do that don't require change legislation or big pockets of money, but that will materially help our kids.
Okay, so I mean, I feel like this conversation really should go for about an hour and a half. Unfortunately, this is the podcast for the time poor parent who just wants answers now, and we've already sort of extended our time beyond what we're supposed to. So I want to wrap up with a question for you. Well, actually, before I hit the question, the book is called Out of the Box. It's by Madonna King and Rebecca Sparrow. It's available everywhere, already in the second print run. It's only been out for a week. Look at you guys go. Here's my question. We're moving in towards the summer holidays. Another couple of weeks of school, handful of weeks, and the kids are off and everyone's at home and hopefully relaxing and enjoying some downtime. And the kids are going to feel good for it, especially if we can keep them away from screens and get them outside in nature and living their best lives outside. But in around about, 8 or 9 or 10 weeks, we're going to be going through, especially those of us with neurodiverse kids, we're going to be going through this thing where the kids are saying, I don't want to. I did it last year. Why do I have to do it again this year? What if I don't like my teacher? What if I don't like my classmates? What if? We're going to be going through all of this again with our kids. So as we get ready to close things down for the summer and recalibrate for a new year, I'd love to ask each of you, what do you think the best things are that parents can do to guide their kids into a successful 2025 as they head into school?
So we've got a list in the book, but one thing I would say is if your child is starting high school or starting a new school, write to the teacher, develop a relationship with that classroom teacher. Get a little picture of the school, a map of it, and over the holidays wander around so they know where tuck shop is and a sitting area is. So there is a sense of routine and familiarity before they even go to school. But don't leave that connection till February next year. Do it in the remaining weeks before school finishes so that you can talk to your child over that period about what will happen next year. And then it's not a huge jump to a new school. It's a transition which can be really tricky.
Beautiful.
Beck?
Beautiful. What about you, Beck?
Look, I would say certainly in primary school, the things that I'd be doing between now and the end of the year, I would be getting the current teacher to send your child on fake errands that the child doesn't know are fake with messages to go up to a teacher in the grade above. So they're delivering messages going up to the classrooms, things like that. I would also be saying, and this is what we've done with my kids, early drop-off, the what they call Teachers Week before school goes back. That is when you talk to your school. Your child could be in there every day, just half an hour, wandering around in the new classroom, chatting to the teacher. It is all about relationship building. So what I'm hoping is that you're going to have a teacher that you go in and say, listen, my child loves Taylor Swift, dinosaurs, frogs, whatever. Right? That's their special interest. And the great teachers out there will go, right, I'm onto this. And they will have conversation starters because it is all down to that relationship between a child and their teacher. And the safer our neurodivergent children feel, the more that likely they will flourish. Just on that, there's some research that shows that kids are happy at school. This is going back to the relationship thing, essentially, when they have someone to sit next to in class that they like and when they trust the teacher, when they know the teacher's going to act in their best interest. When we had our kids starting a school a few years ago, we wrote a note to the teacher, like you said, Madonna, and we just asked if there were a couple of parents that we could meet up with their kids so that our children could develop some relationships across the summer. So they're not showing up on day one completely unknown and completely lost. And we found that was also, well, it came with some challenges, but it was also useful. The name of the book is Out of the Box, a one-stop guide to navigating neurodivergence. The authors are Madonna King and Rebecca Sparrow. They're two of my wonderful friends, and I'm so grateful for the work that they do and the way that they're supporting families who are dealing with these challenges. Madonna, Beck, thanks so much. Just wish we could talk for hours. This is so valuable. Thanks, John.
Pleasure.
And all the best with the book. I think it'll make a great Christmas gift under the tree for somebody if you haven't grabbed it already. All set for next year. If you'd like more info, we'll link to the book in our show notes. Out of the Box, a one-stop guide to navigating neurodivergence. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. And if you'd like more info about making your family happier, visit us at happyfamilies.com.au. Tomorrow on the pod, it's a Doctor's Desk episode. We're looking at a new study that links low-income stressed parents and child behaviour and how better support can bring benefits. And a brand new study that's just come out suggesting that the negative effects of childhood spanking may be overstated. Can't wait for that one on the Happy Families podcast.